Welcome to AlleyOopDunks episode 7 for round 7. I'm your host, Bill 2. On this episode, my co host is absent because he's a little bit under the weather. Buddy, speedy recovery. I hope to have you here very shortly for the next episode. So, jumping straight into what we've seen and what we did. Our team did very well on last round, and we did jump quite high on the stands, but we will talk about that later, as usual. And I think, as you can see on the screens, I'm looking at what happened on the previous fixtures. And first of all, what jumps out is the 116 points, a new record from Baskonia. They seem everything to be clicking for them offensively. They did one amazing win. I don't think there is much to say around that. Everything was just clicking there. Then on the other game, we had Bayern finally getting a win, and actually on a tough game against FS. We had given Ataman as an option for the expensive market, but with a risky um, quote, and it seems like it was time for Bayer to finally um, get their first win. Then we had the derby of last week. That was Armani versus Milan, one of the two derbies. So for the first day, it was Armani versus Milan, and we had Musa scoring 25 points and having 5 assists, and Pango's heroics were not enough, to turn the game towards Armani. So Real got away with a very important away win. And we had Partizan also doing a great away win against Panathinaikos in Athens, where the usual suspects, Panther and Lesort, they took over the game. Panther had 29 points, Lesort have a double-double. And that concluded the first day. On the second day, we had Zalgiris and Asvel making some big returns on their second half and actually stealing the games into a strong fashion, I would say. We had Zalgiris being 12 points behind at halftime. But then in the second half, they just couldn't miss, and we had Evans as per usual and Smiths rolling, but this time we had also Brasdekis having a very good performance, but mainly Ulanovas, that he was on a clinic that night. And Asvel was 14 points, 14 points behind at the halftime in Bologna versus Virtus. But then in the second half, they came out strong. They shot the ball quite well. 57%, 2 points, 44% 3-pointers. They didn't miss a free throw. So all in all, a good performance for them, taking the second win in a row, if I'm correct. And on the other hand, we see Virtus still struggling. Then we had Valencia making another away win, and we had pretty much Jones still in the game. That was amazing, but I think it's worth mentioning Olympiacos has only lost one game last year in the regular season at home, and we are just at round 6, and they've already lost 2 games at home. So probably they will be back in track shortly, but it's a strange one there, especially with the way they started the season. Now in the big derby of the day, Barcelona Fener. there could be a lot of commentary around there how Fener managed in the end to almost steal the game. But I think whoever watched that game, I think we had the moment, the European moment, the similar LeBron J.R. Smith meme we have in NBA with Motley. So whoever seen that game, he seen Fener being down 3 points and somehow having the last offense in their hands after many exchanges and free throws, etc. So they did have the game on their hands. And Motley is on the 3 point line. They need a three to win the game. And he doesn't realize that is 2 points behind. I think he may thought it's just 1 point, and he attacks the basket and dunks the ball, and it's the end of the game. His teammates didn't know what really happened there. So yeah, that was that Motley moment. It was funny, but to be honest and fair with him, he had an amazing game, and he's been on fire lately, and he's showing all these rumors that we have around his name when he was playing in Eurocup, that he's actually doing great here as well. So we should not just focus on that moment and just see the quality that he's providing for Fener. And finally, we had Monaco versus Cervena Zvezda, and I think many people would think Monaco would have won easier, but it seems they needed Lloyd and James to score 20 and 21 points to get that game. On the other hand, we did have Petrusev doing an amazing game. He had 16 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and he gave 27 fantasy points for whoever had him. So all in all, very great games. And in terms of our predictions or suggestions, let's say, last round around coaches, it was one of the few times that we didn't do great. Because as I said at the start, we miss Ataman. Also, we miss Barzokas, with Jones stealing the game in the end. Scariolo, we thought he could take the game at home, but although we know that was risky a little bit, but he didn't. But luckily, the one suggestion that we use for our own team, AlleyOopDunks, it was so proud of it, and he delivered. So I think that gives me also a good pass to go to our predictions for coaches this week. So if I switch my tabs and get on to our fantasy game, you can see here, I think everything is sorted. Yeah, by credit. So on this top rank market, we do have Itulis at 9.4 playing at home versus Cervena Zvezda. And I think they did put difficult. It was a difficult situation for Monaco, and they didn't want that game as easy as they wanted. But I think Fener should bounce back from that defeat last week, and especially the way it came. So with 9.4 credits, Itulis is our first option for coaches this week. And also, what we like to say, we're going to get him with some discount. As you can see here, after that previous loss, he dropped from 9.7 to 9.4. And then if we move down to, let's say, mid-market, another team that wants to bounce back from the previous defeat is Olympiacos, that is playing home against Partizan. Barzokas also comes with a great discount. I think that would be quite rare during the year because he had 2 consecutive losses. So actually, this is the cheapest you would get Barzokas. So it's just 7.8 credits. And on this game, due to the FIBA windows at the end of this week, Partizan just, I think, is getting into Athens with just 8 players. And if I'm not mistaken, also Nanali, I'm not sure if he's 100%. I think he had some kind of very light head injury on the last game. So it's gonna be tough for Partizan to, to play against Olympiacos. Although the big, the main trio, as we say, Panther, Lesort, Lede will be there. But it's gonna be tough. And then if we go on to, let's say, any solutions on the deep value. So if I reduce then our available credits to the 7, then the first code that comes up is Penaroya. I mean, we've talked on this on our previous videos about Baskonia, and that that one of the teams is one of the teams that not everybody thought it would play so well, but they actually have done some impressive wins this year. And they're playing an away game versus Panathinaikos. It's not going to be easy, but with 6.6 points, it seems like a good solution, especially when Panathinaikos is not on a great form currently. And lastly, that could be a little bit more risky, but we have Gonzalez on the Genmar encounter against Bayern. They're playing at home. They started the year very well with 3 consecutive wins, but then they have 3 consecutive defeats. So we think maybe this is the time to come back. And the 3 defeats they have, they were all away, as you can see here. So coming back at home, this should probably give them the upper hand against the Bayern Munich. And that concludes pretty much our coach selections. So last week on the centers, we actually had another very good week on the results, especially for the expensive and the mid-market solutions. Tavares with 19.8, Yusupafol with 16.5, but Lesort, whoever took Lesort, he paid 30.8 points. As I mentioned at the start, he had a double-double, and he keeps getting minutes. He played 39 minutes on that game, and he seems the more time he has on the court, the more productive or the more hot he gets. On the other hand, the other 2 selections, Kumaje, that was a surprise. He only got 2 fantasy points. Hopefully, he's going to be back on his top form this week. And then Martin, that didn't go very well, as he only managed to score 2 points and grab 2 rebounds, but had also 2 turnovers in 12 minutes. So this week, we are going to pretty much, stick to 2 out of, most usual selections for center for the expensive market. That is Tavares with 15.3, the one solution, and the other is, of course, Lesort. Now, Tavares, He has 11.3 points, and he's grabbing 7 rebounds on average. I think what is different this year is, the turnovers. He's averaging 2.5 turnovers. If he can improve that as well, he can give also way better points. But if we can see what he's done the whole, from the start of this year, it's just one game when he gave single-digit points. Um, so, we think with FS, he's gonna be a focal point for Real Madrid. So we expect again to have a good game. The second, as you can see, is Motley, and I talked about him briefly earlier. He's making our list this week for the top rank. So Tavares, Motley, and Sort. Motley, he's having a great role in this nice machine of Fener. He's playing at least 23 minutes, as you can see. He's scoring on double digits. And if we check here, he's been consistently giving double digits from the second round onwards. And on the last game, he's also had a high season point game with 23 points. And at the same time, he had 7 rebounds as well. So that's Motley. And then we have Lesort. Lesort, again, as I said earlier, Partizan has to play with just 8 players. Lesort, he's averaging 35 minutes, so really long time on the court, and with not much, behind him. We even know that, Partizan doesn't really have a big line of centers, so I think the 35 minutes are probably the minimum he would play. Let's see if he will even get out at all. We may see something crazy. But in any case, he's shown, as I said earlier, when he gets the minutes, he's productive, and actually Partizan will need him on the top of his game. So that's our last selection for this top market. Going into the mid market, then for another week, we're sticking with Yusupafo with 10 credits. He's getting the minutes, and he's scoring double digits whole year. He's, as you can see, averaging above 8 rebounds per game. And he's having a clear, main role in the center position, usually more than 20 minutes. His average is 23 minutes played. The second solution on this mid-market is Harris. Harris at Bayern, he had his second game this season against FS. You see both games he scored at least 10 points. And I think he's going to be getting also a little bit more minutes going forward, or at least, around 20 or 20 plus as he got here. So for his credit, is a very solid solution. I think worth mentioning that me and Konstantinos, we considered also Baco, but he didn't make our list in the end because he's he's having a difficult game. Then on the deep value market, we have the usual Kumadze. So we want to think that it was just a bad fantasy game. his last appearance, and he would just be back on his normal. It's also a German derby, as we said, so Berlin will really need him on his best in order to get back into winning ways. Um, we also thought about San Lee, but he didn't make our list. But San Lee, if we can see, he's getting a clear, he's a role player for Barca, so he's getting around 20 minutes on the court quite consistently, and he's quite cheap for his quality. But because he has his ups and downs, and the play also away, he didn't make our list. And that concludes our selections for the center position. Then if I move into the forward, and then something that Konstantinos mentioned before, that usually our prediction suggestions do great for center and guard, but forward we don't do that great. This time we gave Vezenkov, Panther, and Deck on the top rack market, and we have Vezenkov 27 fantasy points, Panther 26.4. Deck he did 14.3, but still, is a double digit. And even then, the mid market was great, with the exception of Bentil, that was only 12 fantasy points. We have Smiths at 18.7 with a bonus of the win, and Olinde at 18 plus 18. And all of them, they scored double digits. Bentil had 14 points, Smiths 14 points, Olinde 10 points, and they all played more than 22 minutes. And then it seems there is a pattern here. For deep value, Zusman gave us +5. So for 6.8 is not terrible, but we could do better probably. Gave us 5 fantasy points with 5 points on 21 minutes on the court. And then Riza say he didn't play on the last game, but with only 4 credits, you won't be losing money if you just need to finish to close your team. And also he took quite many minutes on the National League the past weekend, so we see if he gets again minutes in the Euroleague. But if he does, with 4 credits, you're not gonna be losing any value, so only upside there if he plays though. So this week then, for the forward position, since we started, I think we are selecting Vezenkov quite consistently, and this will be the case here as well, because Vezenkov, and if I share the top of the Euroleague Fantasy, so Vezenkov, as you can see, he's scoring 28.1 points per game. We talked before quite many times that when was down at 15, 15 or 16 with 0.5, we thought is cheap. With 16.8, I think he's still cheap with the way he plays. Low of the year was 16. Now, I think if there is a risk here, that would be the risk that because Partizan doesn't have many players on that game, Olympiacos may rest a little bit Vezenkov, and instead of getting 33 minutes, he gets something close to 25 to 28 minutes. So that could be something that potentially reduce his fantasy points. but all in all, it's a must for us. So that's our first selection for the top rank with 16.8 credits, Vezenkov. And then, we had a couple of other mentionable situations. Doug and Clyburn, we both thought that they would be a good fit, but for different reasons, we didn't include them. Also, they could face each other at times, possibly, although probably, um, there is a high chance Deck um, will, will have to be the main point of scoring for Real, and he's been clinical this year. But this is a very tough game, so we just stayed away. So instead, our second solution for this top rank, like more than 10, 11 credits, goes to Ponitka. Ponitka is been consistently given points on fantasy. In the last 3 games, the minimum he gave is 17 points. He's also scoring 12 points on average these 3 games. He's always grabbing some rebounds. I mean, if I switch here and we see his average, you can see 9.3 points, 5.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 1.2 steals. He does have his turnovers. Maybe that's why we don't get higher fantasy points. But all in all, if he's in a good day and he make the shots, he has a very high potential. And we know that as for a fact, he contributes on many aspects of the game. So he's always giving some points. And he's getting also the playing minutes, as I'm highlighting here, the 25 to 30 minutes. So he has a clear role in the team. Then if I move on to the mid-market selections, so let's say anything below 10, we will stick with Smits of Zalgiris, because we had him last round as well. So Smits with 9.4. He's scoring double digits, and he's coming back from this good game, as we said earlier, with Berlin. Now he's playing in France against as well. We think, especially with the line he's playing against, that he has the ability to provide for Zalgiris in scoring points and in rebounds. So that's our first selection for that mid-market. And then, of course, we are having the player that also gave us much points on this last round, and that was Olinde. So although Alba didn't manage to win these last games, you can see that he's scoring 15 and plus 18 the last 2 games. And the whole year, except of that game on the 4th round against FS, he's giving back double digits, around 15 or more, I would say. So he's getting his minutes as well. And, Alba will need him. So with 8.4, I think is a very decent solution. We thought about Bentil as well. But in the end, we decided, that clearly Smith and Olinde are better and safer options on this frame of the mid market. Now on the deep value market, we are going to select 2 players from the same team. So our forward deep value is all about Baskonia. We have Sedekerskis with 7.8 credits that he's scoring. Um, as you can see here, averagely, is that correct what I'm seeing? So 11.5 fantasy points, and he's having 8 points if I see here correct. He's getting 20 minutes play, so quite long minutes for just for anything less than 8 credits. And similarly, we have another player, as I said, from Baskonia, that he is coming from a great game, and that is Marinkovic with just 5.5 credits, playing time of 21 minutes average, and he had a minus on the round 5, but then he bounced back with 16.5 fantasy points, the highest of this year, scoring 14 points. He's done it before, as you can see on the round 3 and 4. He scored double digits, and um, he's consistently having playing time. So with 5.5 credits, the playing time he can give, and also the score he gave on last round, is a good combination for us, and he makes our deep value selection for forwards. Now, on the guard side of things, on the last round, we had Misic, that he had a great game. Although they didn't manage to win in Germany against Bayern, he did score 24 points. He gave 25 fantasy points. Lorenzo Brown, as I said earlier, he was playing against Baskonia, so that was a very tough game. He played 28 minutes. He scored 20 points, and he gave 15 fantasy points. And then Slukas, he gave 16 fantasy points. So all in all, okay results, and Miss is very good. And then in the mid market, as with forwards, we also had all across we have centers, Yusupov 16.5, forwards 18.7, Olinde and Smith's 18. So here a similar situation. Winston had 15.4 fantasy points. Evans has 18.7, Walkup 18, and they all scored double digits in their game. They all played more than 27 minutes, and they were critical for their teams winning. Winston and Evans. Walkup didn't win with Olympiacos. Finally, in the deep value, we had Di Bartolomeo with 5.5 credits, giving plus 8 points in 19 minutes of playing with 5 scored points. So that was really good result. But then we had a hiccup there with Larezakis, that he had -4, his lowest of the year. He didn't have a great game. This week, if I move on to the guard position and start for the top market, the first player that appears on our screen is Mike James. Mike James costs 16.5 credits. Yes, it is expensive, but he is coming from a good game and on his average pretty much, and we think he's going to continue this way. There is not too much to say about Mike James. He is the motor of Monaco, and they keep going on winning ways, and they have the ability to go on a streak of 4 wins if they win that in at Valencia. So our second option remains as Lucas as we did on the previous week. Um, Again, as we mentioned earlier, the player against Partizan, he's gonna get the minutes. Maybe he's not gonna the same situation with Vezenkov. We don't know how long he will stay, but you see, he always gets more than 24 minutes, between 24 to 28. So we think he's gonna be around that 25-minute mark. Um, and he's very efficient on all of his games. So that's our second choice. For that reason, you see the minimum he's given is 15 points. Um, then we have a third option here. Um, and because of his price, we weren't sure if he needs to be mid-market or he needs to be on the top market. But here it is, Marcus Howard. I think I've been mentioned him before on this show that if he keeps healthy and if he continues playing the same way he does, I can see him be a hot name. In the end of the year, he he reminds me a little bit of James when he attacks the basket, and he reminds me a little bit of Larkin on his 3-point attempts. When he's on a roll, there is nothing that can stop him. So he's a very nice player to watch. So maybe he's gonna have another good game. He had 23 points on the last one versus Maccabi, and he gave 16.5. So why not repeat that? The playing away game though. So we see how that goes, because most of his good games are coming at home. But I think it's his time to also get a high score on a away game. I mean, worth mentioning here for the top rank that we also thought about Misic Jones. We believe they will both do good games, but we felt more safe with our three options earlier. Now moving into mid-market, we are sticking to the players we had last round. Two of the players we had last round, and that's Winston and Evans. Winston is playing at Berlin in Germany, but away from the home court. But he's been consistent. So you can see now he's averaging 12.8 points, 2.7 assists for 1.8 turnovers, and he has 1.2 steals. But I think what is more important to see is how he has developed. You can see at the start of the year he had very low fantasy points, and then he started giving back from round 4, and this is also depicted in his minutes. He had just 19 minutes, and then he jumped on the last games to average 28 minutes the last two games. And I think it seems like Trinchieri had found a good tool to help him, get back on winning ways. Then the other choice, as I said, is Evans. We talked about him before here. He's the main guy in Zalgiris, and he's having a good year at Zalgiris, and there is no reason to believe that this will drop now. He's giving always double digits in his games, fantasy-wise, and also his scoring. As you can see, if we exclude the round 3 when he scored 9 points, his lowest was 14 points. So the 15 points we've seen earlier is his average and he's quite consistent. That didn't happen through just big highs and many lows. And then playing time it's been increased clearly the last 3 games when he's around 30 minutes on the court. So for that reason and on a away game, he will be really important for Zalgiris. And that concludes our mid-market solutions. I mean, worth mentioning that we thought also about walk-up again. Um, but I think it has a little bit of risk, this selection. Although he gave us 18 to the previous round. And then finally, moving into the deep value market, we have, let's say, below 8, right? So we have Smith for Berlin, coming from a good game on his return. So you see he scored 14 points. He gave 16 fantasy points. He grabbed some rebounds, 6 rebounds, 3 assists and 2 turnovers. So quite decent output from him. And I think it's his time for him to get also some more minutes. He should be able, with 7.8 credits only, it seems like a good solution. And probably his price is going to increase in the future if he continues that output. Now, the second option for this deep value market is quite lower, and that is another player from Berlin. Procida, the Italian, came back on his good performances. He scored a season high of 17 fantasy points against Zalgiris. He had 11 points. He had 6 rebounds. And as you can see, he's a role player of around 20 minutes in Berlin's system. So with 6.3, we get our cheapest option for guards. And then lastly, we had one more, and that is Madar. That was our last minute selection, I would say, and that's mainly because of the situation we had with Partizan, with injuries and many players getting on the FIBA games. So Madar will need to be on the court for long minutes probably, and he has, from round 3 onwards, he has okay results. So you can see here this 20 to 24 minutes. We think he's probably going to surpass that against Olympiacos. So with 6.7 is a decent selection. And that concludes our solutions for coaches and players for round 7. And with that, I can get to our team, the AlleyOopDunks, and give an update on how we're going and what are our solutions for the next round. So on the previous round, we had a score of 187.5. We increased our capital by 2 credits. And as I mentioned earlier, what is important for us is codes. We managed to get the correct codes to give us the 10 points bonus there. We had Lesort on the first day against Panathinaikos, giving us the 61.6 points as a captain. So we didn't have to go into the Zenkov option, but he still delivered with 27 points. Panther, I mentioned at the start, he had an amazing game with 29 points, so he gave us 26.4. Misses, 25 points. We talked about him earlier. Lorenzo Brown, you know, he could have done better, but this is okay as well. And then, I mean, that was our main focus last week, to get one more player, to have 6 players that can give us double digits. So, of course, Fall, that has been with us since the start, he gave us 16.5, another solid game from him. And from our bench, I think we were lucky to have Lazarevich giving us 9 points. Of course, 4.5 with because as we're getting half from the bench, right? But all in all, that now actually put us in number 14 in whole fantasy world, and it feels a little bit surreal and crazy that we managed to get up here. But our goal is to keep improving, and I think now that would be the most difficult thing. So we need to be really careful on our selections now and on, now that things are clicking. So on round 7, we there we are. So on round 7, then as I talked earlier, we wanted to go with Itudis and Fener trying to bounce back. So Obradovic is out of the team. Sas Obradovic, we thank him for the 10 points. That was a very difficult fixture, but we got them and very important 10 points. So welcome to Itudis. And because we did that move and we wanted to have an expensive coach, we needed to sacrifice one of our top players, and we decided that would be Panther because he was after an amazing game. So we don't know if that was the high of the first half of the season. Who knows? But we took out Hunter and Brown, that we weren't too happy about his production. Also, he has a tough game. And we got James back in the team, and we got Olinde, that we think he's gonna, give a good score for 8.4. It seems very good solution, and pretty much we still have the 6 players that we will expect they give us double digits, all of them, and then we hope we get an 11-point win from Itulis will give us 20 points. If that's possible, that would be great. But in any case, we wouldn't want to lose points from our coach, right? And then, of course, we have the players to fill our team in the bench. So with that, I think I can now move to our other team, the deep value team. That is our development team, and not the successful one. So yeah, it scored 135 points, increased in capital as well with 1.4 credits. We were not lucky with code selection. As I said earlier, Scariolo and Virtus, they gave away their advantage they have in the first half, and they actually lose the game in the second. Kumazie, it was an unlucky week for him as well in fantasy terms. But then we had Musa making an amazing game, but unfortunately wasn't our captain. He had the high of the season with 34.1. Our captain was Lucas, that he had an okay game for his, standards. Wasn't amazing. Another good game for Jones. Another good game from Winston. And Lede, an okay game. As I said, Olinda was good as well. So our bench was quite well, I would say. In this round, we decided to get the center that get Lede, give away Lede and get Motley. I talked about him earlier about the contribution he's having on Fener, and fantasy-wise, he's been solid lately. And they're playing at home and they want to bounce back, Fener. So we think he's gonna go for a good score. Then we try to get a deep value coach. Um, so we selected Gonzalez because he's playing at home versus Penaroya, and also it was cheaper selection, so we could get actually Motley in our team. And then the other change we did, Olinde had to go because he moved on our AlleyOopDunks team, and we can't have the same player on two teams. That's the rule we have put for ourselves. So that's Marinkovic then, that we said he had a great result last week with just 5.5 credits, is on the team. And the Sorkin was out, that he had a couple bad fantasy games. And we filled actually the team with the two deep value selections we gave earlier from the Baskonia, so Sedekerskis and Marinkovic. And that concludes also our team deep value for the next round. I hope you did enjoy, as I did myself, this recording. And if you really like it, please give us a like or subscribe to our channel. And you can follow us also on Twitter. We give regular updates. I'm talking on the plural, and I say we because usually the format is with my buddy Konstantinos, that we're doing this. But today, as I said at the start, I'm doing this solo as he's under the weather, but he's gonna be back on next week. So, guys, if you want, just I have the disc on the description below, our Twitter as well. Follow us there for more updates. We're gonna give also updates of how we are doing, or any last-minute changes, or any other updates, especially with injuries or with the FIBA windows, and anything to do with basketball. So till then, hope you all have a great round 7 results, and see you next time. Bye.